The honor is all mine. Good morning, and pleasure to start an important meeting like CSR Box off. It's going to be a mix of Hindi and English because मुझे नहीं लगता messaging can only be done in English. I wish I knew 16 other languages. I don't, but I'll give it my best shot. I'm deeply honored, and I don't think any work can happen without your team. And my start to the CSR Box meeting will be that you are actually nothing without your team. So very honored to share the stage with the young change makers. Today's topic is campaigning, and in fact, Bhaumik, who is of course the head of CSR Box, a very dear friend, has continuously been engaging, encouraging the work we do. But we'll talk to you about a few examples, our experiences of how to try to change things in the social sector, on the ground, working with different stakeholders, and I'd love to respond to any questions, comments, criticism is most welcome because you really can't change anything till you take all the feedback in. With that, I'm going to start us off. You can see a small logo at the end of the slide. I don't know if you can read there. That is ETI, and it stands for Empower, Transform, Inspire. I've, of course, it was mentioned, I've spent about 12 years, 13 years in this sector and working on campaigns, which include campaigns like TB Harega, Desh Jeetega. I'm very honored, Amitabh Bachchan ke saath, to build that, to take it across the country. More examples I'll share with you. But I think the greatest achievement, and COVID has been a teacher, it's been negative. It's also taught people how to get independent on their own feet. That's what COVID was for me. And I started ETI with my father 1.5 years ago. ETI, Hindi एक शब्द है इति, जिसका मतलब होता है एक चीज़ का अंत और एक चीज़ की शुरुआत. And I think nothing sums up better our experiences, जो हम आपके साथ आज share करेंगे as an organization. Might have to point there. Beauty of technology. Go for it. Next, the slide before. Yeah. So about ETI. हमारी approach है that we are going to leave no one behind, और हम emphasize करते हैं services for all, it should be equal, or it seems like it's easy to say, difficult to do, but I will share simple examples with you of how you can bring change. I will also share examples with you on what happens when things don't work and how do you have to course correct. Our organization works with health, science and development priorities. The most important thing is campaigning बहुत प्रकार की होती है, but the campaigning we do is science driven, data driven, it's evidence driven, because real change can only come through that. Next. So what is a campaign? The slides are very simple. मैं ना पढ़ना चाहती थी or anything. I wanted to leave you with images. I wanted to leave you with videos. But campaigns are purpose driven, goal oriented, something that moves you. There is also a difference between a campaign approach and activist approach, and uske bhi मैं examples आपको दूंगी. What activism looks like and how is it different from campaigning. We want to engage with our collective concern and behavior and become an engine for social change. This is a video which was developed by me when I was working with the Tata Trust. And Mr. Ratan Tata had put aside $150 million to focus on TB and malaria. It was a bold move, and our Honorable Prime Minister was already backing that vision, and he wanted to support the government. So we set up something called the India Health Fund, which I was heading as a communications advocacy advisor, and this is the campaign we built. It's a very simple animation, and it shows you different ways of campaigning. We wanted to make India Health Fund something that people could recall and say कि अच्छा ये भी एक network है जिस पे हम depend कर सकते हैं as young innovators. This was launched in France, and I will just request the team to play that for you. Can we get some help in playing the video, please? Hi, can I get some help with the video, please? Just, we'll take a few seconds or we'll move on. It may not. Okay, why don't we, while they're trying, I'll turn to Avantika. Abhi Avantika, एक campaign हमने plan किया है. Very fortunate to work with the European Union. Something called the Welthungerhilfe, which is a nutrition-based German organization. And why I wanted Avantika to share this with you is because it talks to you, जब आप grassroots से stories लेके आए, आपके ऊपर एक humanitarian भी responsibility होती है, evidence-driven भी responsibility होती है to tell the stories right. Because you are the person who's getting their stories from the ground to the world. Avantika, over to you.
Right. So we had the opportunity to travel across different states in India. We were very lucky to go into very, very rural hinterlands, inside mountain spaces in Rajasthan, villages where only outcasts had to set up there, or entire civilizations from scratch, what they're doing. And this is completely cut off from any town, any city. We had the opportunity to travel to Jharkhand, rural Jharkhand. We had the opportunity to work with an organization in the Sundarbans. And these are all people whose ground realities are very different from what you would expect. I mean, you would expect that, they don't have any access to education. So, of course, they don't have many opportunities. And that while that's true, they do have aspirations. And they do have needs that we need to cater to. So the campaigns that we focused on providing nutrition kits for pregnant mothers, about getting children in Sundarbans who are very vulnerable to harassment and exploitation and trafficking, giving them education, remedial schools for children who have no access to any schools. All government schools or any schools that they do have are only running because of the midday meal scheme. So how do you make sure that this message is brought out to the public in a way that doesn't victimize them, that doesn't make them seem like they need to be saved? This, I think, this is where the entire aspect of humanity comes in.
Thank you. And in the audience are also, I know, our CSR partners, people who genuinely want to invest in change. And I think that's where people like me, my teams, lots of us in this sector, we need to tell you where to also probably think of putting your money for change. And what does change really look like? I know there is a lot of mistrust. For example, on platforms. बहुत सारे लोग सोचते हैं हम दे रहे हैं, whether it's reaching or it's not reaching. We can talk about it a little bit more. This platform is called ShareOn. It's set up by the European Union, the Skills Foundation of India, and how you get opportunities to really invest in small things to make change. Ek example देती हूँ, there is a school in Jharkhand. Agar we can collect together about say 5 lakhs, you can run that school for an entire year. And you will see that change come in. So I think those examples become important. I'd like to play the video with the voice. Yeah? Okay. Thanks for your patience.
Avnish, can we play the video?
under a minute, we launched one of the biggest forums for TB control, headed by, of course, the Tata Trust in support of Government of India, happened at an international platform. There are multiple campaigns that I can share with you. I'll talk about the first one in my career. So when I started working on tuberculosis about 15 years ago, it was called the poor man's disease. अमीरों को नहीं होता, सिर्फ गरीबों को होता है. The biggest misconception you can have about something that's an endemic disease, right? So how did we change that? Maharashtra had a very difficult strain which was non-treatable in 2012. And the first thing we did was we worked to put the problem on the cover of Time magazine. The minute we got it to an attention platform internationally, we started having the conversations. Conversations take time. It takes commitment from the government, we all know that. So you can campaign after campaign, but you will need the government to take it to a national level. And that was my learning. I mentioned Amitabh Bachchan's TB Harega Desh Jeetega campaign, which I curated with him. I think one of the game-changing moments in campaigning for tuberculosis, which has become the Prime Minister's vision for elimination, is the fact that he came out, Amitabh Bachchan came out and he said that I am a TB survivor. And if I can do it, so can you. There are going to be moments in your campaign journeys in the social sector which will be game changers. So this certainly was one. I'll also share an example of probably a campaign which ran into trouble. It's focused on, and I'm just sharing live campaigns, not reading from PPTs because I think we need to change approaches and have conversations. Cervical cancer vaccine, when it came into India, probably we weren't as ready as a nation as we are today, because last month the Ministry of Science and Technology has rolled out the serum vaccine, which is an Indian-made cervical cancer prevention vaccine. India has the highest burden when it comes to this. Why didn't it work then? Maybe we had structural failures, maybe we didn't look at the pathway the way we should have, and I think those are two of the learnings from my career. ऐसा नहीं है कि मैंने कोई भी campaign किया तो it has worked. Oh no, and it's been difficult. We've got our pushback. Maybe Shireen can share an example also of a campaign very close to our hearts, because we also work on gender equity and why it didn't work at that point.
Right. So this was a campaign that we started which was focused on marital rape. And at that time, marital rape was legal in India. Under the constitution, if we saw the articles, the exception was that if a woman was married and above the age of 15, the rape by a husband was not constituted as rape. And we started a petition where we worked with someone who was a survivor of marital rape, who was interested in sharing this issue forward and talking about what is the harm of it, not just financial, physical, but as well as mental. We put the campaign online and we also had some level of interest from the people. But at some point, the person was not comfortable sharing their experiences with their name surrounding it because they thought it will bring them and their family some sort of shame. They had young children to look after. So one learning that we had at that time was specifically looking at very sensitive issues like marital rape when you are against a structure that is not supportive. Like at that time, the constitution was not supportive, the legal structures were not supportive. People, whenever you ask about marital rape, would only say that, you know, it's a bedroom issue of a husband and a wife, we don't need to get into this, which was something is what we're trying to change. But that voice wasn't really reaching to the people because that's the most important part of campaigning. Who is the person who's campaigning and what is the sort of voice that you're using? Of course, data is important, evidence is important, but along with that, sharing the real life stories and examples is really what moves the people. So if I do a campaign which is focused on nutrition, let's say, and I utilize the examples of people who have actually suffered from malnutrition and have been able to, you know, bounce back from it, we believe that is the sort of campaign that works much better. And giving the push and support to the person who's leading the campaign is also something that's extremely essential.
So as we spend more time in the CSR summit, there are going to be, people have worked very, very hard to put those stalls outside. I would really request that we spend that time. We try to understand those ideas. From ETI's end, there are some campaigns we are working on, and we can all connect, maybe post the session. I can share those with you. How simple investments can help change lives. I'll move on quickly. Why do we use campaigning as a tool? Is because, firstly, we discussed how we want to address an issue, taking the correct audience into perspective and solving a problem. I'll share one quick example. I had the honor to work with the Children's Investment Fund Foundation, CIF, that focuses on a lot of adolescent nutrition health issues. I had never worked in a small district in Odisha, and this opportunity came to me where I ran a consortium of 10 partners. It's not easy to do something like that, but was fortunate to have some of the best people working with me. We went into a small district called Angul. Odisha is, we all know, a tribal population heavy state. And we realized that problem इतनी basic थी कि लोग nutrition access करना चाहते थे, but उनके पास आंगनवाड़ी तक जाने का ना time था, because आंगनवाड़ीज were at a distance of 10 kilometers from each other. You can't expect a fully pregnant woman to walk 10 kilometers or a kid to go and walk 10 kilometers. So we first went in and we learned from people. And my sincere advice to everybody who's in the room who wants to work in the social sector, please don't dictate. Please don't believe you know what it is that people need. Go to the people, sit with them, understand from them, strategize, post that, which is what we did. So we went. I really believe in power of people. I'm a common person, and I've been able to change things at a personal level, professional level. I'll share the personal one at the end because that's my favorite example. But we went in, we spoke to the people on the ground. We realized कि problem सिर्फ इतनी सी थी कि infrastructure नहीं था और service access नहीं था. So we said, okay, so how do we change this? So we got people, we followed a dual approach where we got the public together to set up something called Angul Pushti Adhikar Abhiyan, which basically means we have a right to nutrition access. It was run by the women, the children, the Panchayati Raj leaders on the ground where they were connecting with district magistrates, and finally the chief minister. That was one side of the strategy that we followed. The other that we followed was with investment, where we said that, why doesn't the government unlock its funds, create mini nutrition centers? अब ये है कि हर एक किलोमीटर में you will find that in the district, which basically means with limited funds and resources, you are able to change an entire district. The story became so, everybody can follow it. It's now been replicated in other states. But the chief minister came forward, and for the first time in this country, in any state, the budgets were increased by 15 times for nutrition. Governments can do it. We can do it. What is our role as campaigners? Our role as campaigners is to tell them that we are here. We've spoken to the people, listen to us, that we have this strategy. Next slide. We all want to change the world. I'm sure when we woke up today, everybody has an issue. मुझे इस चीज़ से problem है, मुझे इस चीज़ से problem है, पानी बहुत महंगा है, बिजली नहीं आ रही है, Delhi is not safe. It can be multiple things, right? So how do you really pick a cause? There are 10 things which may matter to me, but I cannot change all those 10 things. Pick that one thing that matters to you professionally, personally. Look at the information that's available. If it's not available, go dig it. We live in a live world, like social media has become the backbone of every conversation. Learn to utilize it well. If you're not on it, I would encourage that we should all be on it. Please do your mapping right. For example, I'll go back to TB. When we suggested कि हमें उस पे काम करना है, we were told ये नहीं चलेगा. Because it's just like it's not important. It's been with you for decades and decades. अब आप क्या अलग कर लोगे? So we said कि I think हम कर सकते हैं, and we looked at available resources. We looked at what countries did to address it across the globe, and why is it that India should suffer the highest burden of it. So that journey of advocacy, campaigning from 2012 to 2025, where Prime Minister Modi has given us a tall task of eliminating it, has been a journey of a pathway. So clear your pathway, look at your pathway, what are your goals, do your stakeholder analysis. One more important thing in the process of campaigning is, not everybody is going to be your supporter. In life, everybody is not a supporter. People, come out and say, aapne ye kaisa decision le liya hai. But look at who your supporters are. Look at who the fence sitters are. Fence sitters ka matlab, they'll not really take a stand. And then look at the people from whom you're going to get criticism, because you should know how to respond to that criticism. Next slide. I've already touched upon that. Your task has to be just clearly identified, and the members know your audience. Like I am talking to you today knowing that the people in the audience are people who have been in the development sector, who probably are looking at ways to invest to make change. But this wouldn't be the same way I would probably talk about a campaign when I'm talking to school kids. So I think you need to also know how to message right. And we'll be very happy to connect as a team with all of you, whoever has time, to really also work on that aspect with you, learn from you, grow with you, and share also how our journeys have been. Goal setting is most important. Don't be unrealistic. Like, we are not going to, control the population issue in one day. Be realistic when you start your campaigning. Be realistic of ground realities. I know that, they mentioned I did a family planning campaign across 6 states in India. Family planning by itself is a very tricky issue. Forget about sexual reproductive health and contraceptive care. So how do you message around something like that? उसमें भी मेरी बहुत learning थी, because I thought, मैं जाऊँगी, मैं कहूँगी कि आपके पास ये 6 option है, आप क्यों नहीं pick कर रहे? Reality is that women don't have access. The point is that women still eat last. They also access healthcare last. And I think the biggest campaign that should be run is on equity and making women secure. So that's just one of the things that I wanted to share. So 4 things: realistic goal, how do you get to max impact? They become most important. I've already spoken to you about the 3 segments which are important. Without the community, you are nothing. Now the community can be anybody. अगर मैं nutrition का campaign अंगुल जैसे district में कर सकती हूँ, मैं सिर्फ इसलिए कर पाई because people on the ground trusted me. I was able to build that trust. They are the ones who led change. I just supported them. So I think those aspects also become very, very critical. Next, please. I'm going to just give this to Shireen to maybe talk about how we support entrepreneurship, empowerment, 2 big words जो हमें लगता है are easy to implement, very, very difficult, but something that we at ETI are truly, truly passionate about, because women are 50% of India's population and there is no reason why they should be left behind. Go ahead.
Coming to particularly when you look at, say, for example, you've been to a place and your campaign on some level has seen success. The next point naturally that comes to a lot of people is that how do you take this up? Say you have affected 500 people, your next goal is to reach 1,000, then your next goal is to reach 1,500. And that's where the point of your scalability comes in. Who are going to be your next set of stakeholders? If your first set of stakeholders are especially the people who supported you, because you needed that success and you needed that in, your next set of stakeholders, your strategy with each is going to be different in that sense. So when you are scaling, you're going to look at what are the structures that are supporting you, and that's where research becomes primary. You are going to look at not just the people who are supporting you, but what are the conventions, whether the legal structure, the social behavior, the community in itself, what is going to be their reaction. And if there is going to be a pushback, you're going to prepare yourself for it. And scalability, particularly, let's say in case of women entrepreneurship, would be very different if you run a campaign in Rajasthan versus you running a campaign in Madhya Pradesh. And contextualization becomes very, very important. I understand, let's say, doing my preliminary research, I understand that in one place, people have more of an interest in, let's say, broom making. So whatever entrepreneurship skills that you do want to provide and you do want to build a business and you want to provide a campaign, you would focus on that skill and you would see how that can be maximized. Versus you go to a place where you know that pickle making or rug making is a skill. So understanding the skill when it comes to entrepreneurship is something that's very critical. And only by doing a preliminary research and field survey is what will help you understand that. We all have a sense of understanding that you go to a particular state and you will find this. But in fact, learnings can be very surprising when you actually do go there, because as people who are particularly located in urban areas, we have a privileged sense of understanding of what really happens on the ground. So unless, like Sukriti said, we connect with people and we understand what their skills, what their difficulties, what are the opportunities that exist on the ground, we won't be able to create either scaling up or opportunities which are going to have impact.
Thank you. Can we go to the next slide? I know we have 10 minutes. I want to wrap up, and if there are any questions, we can look at that. Which one is it?
News of malnourishment in children and women
Can you
and
halt?
pregnant.
I'll just give a little. So this is the work, we did at, I mentioned to you about nutrition, and this is the way we presented our learnings and our impact to build more attention on the issue. So I just wanted you to see it. Yes, please.
And teenagers, one wonders what happened to the visionary government initiatives that promised positive changes. Policies and programs are not currently reaching the children, young people and mothers who need them. This is due to a lack of political priority, low funds, poor planning, faulty coordination, and inadequate infrastructure, causing the country to fall behind in its economic progress and development. The matrix of change is working to make children and adolescents' issues a national, economic, and political priority, and ensure that government programs are well resourced and well implemented. The matrix identifies gaps in the delivery of government programs and mobilizes partners to change the terms of political debate and deliver solutions. In ERISA, beneficiaries of the government's Integrated Child Development Scheme, ICDS, hardly access the benefits available to them. Through social audits, we kicked off a citizen-led campaign to highlight the gaps in this implementation. This led to a new grievance and redressal system and services including nutritional supplement that have increased substantially. This intervention also brought to light corruption within the government system, enabling the unlocking of $3.6 million of funds. In Uttar Pradesh, under the National Adolescent Health Programme, SRH services were barely being accessed by the adolescents at the adolescent-friendly health clinics. Through Matrix, we changed the narrative with a focus on teenage pregnancy. It gained the backing of the state government and has been taken up as a critical issue. Now, the state government writes to all its departments monthly, encouraging prioritization around SRH services for adolescents. A rebranding of AFHCs to Sathiya Kendras will enable us to take SRH services out of the clinics to the adolescents. Through better data, better campaigns with stronger narratives, and empowered citizens, Matrix is making children's and adolescents' issues important for the national and state governments. It has huge potential to be scaled up and applied across CIF priority areas and geographies.
Thank you. I'm just going to stop here with the PPT. Is there any unsuccessful campaigns? The slide, the most difficult slide to present, but an important slide. So why is it that we fail? And we'll just wrap up in 2 minutes. If anybody has any questions, happy to take them. So campaigns fail because we don't have plans. Campaigns fail because we think we are bigger than the system and we can change things very rapidly. We cannot be unrealistic when it comes to changing things. Campaigns also fail because you lack sensitivity, which takes me back to the point of really looking at the audience that you're trying to help and being sensitive about their issues. उनकी जो problems हैं वो आपकी problems शायद कभी ना हो. So give them that credit, give them that space, give them their voice respectfully. When we don't do routine assessments, we have timelines which are unrealistic. It took us 10 years for the government to say that yes, TB is an issue. So don't give up. Just because things aren't changing, certainly don't give up. It's difficult to work in areas of health, gender equity, social equality, access. And also set a goal, and अगर उस goal तक आप एक point तक ना पहुँचे, which is your timeline, you need to either revise quickly or you need to get feedback on how you can change the pathway that you're following. I'm just going to stop here.